And then I decided to go to bed, and when I went by, I saw the light was on in my stepdaughter's room. I stopped in and say goodnight. And I sat down on the bed and I gave her a kiss goodnight. And that led to fondling her. And then
Yeah.
I
So
remember,
how old was she at that time?
ma'am,
How old was she at that time?
he was 8 years old. That was in 1995.
We are about to watch the parole hearing of a cockroach who did the worst to his stepdaughter. It's going to be interesting for me to see the preacher and the sheriff and how they handle this hearing. With that, let's jump in.
So, Mr. Robertson, you are classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 40-year sentence. You were sentenced in April of 2005 for attempted first-degree rape. You have a parole eligibility date, which was August 18, 2023. You do have a good time date, which is August 22nd, 2036. Full term is in August of 2043. Is all that information correct, sir?
Yeah, it sure sounds correct. Yes.
All right. Would you answer Mr. Tillis's questions, please? Your case has been assigned to him.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? How long have you been in, Mr. Lewis?
Approximately 20 years and 8 months.
And what have you done since you've been here? Have you taken some classes, training?
When I first got here, I took the sex offender course in 2009, four sections of it, passed and have that in my file there. And since then, I've been living in the vets program dorm where we, for 5.5 years, basically since it was instituted back in 2018. And we take classes twice a week in there, covering all phases of anger, alcoholism, and different things. And I've also taken all the victim impact classes, living in balance. Let me see. Can I get my list out here so I can refresh my memory? We had, let's see. Yeah. I'm also a tutor, registered tutor in the back at the carpentry shop where we build Habitat cabinets. I've been back there for 12 years now and presently been working back there also. Before that, I was a maintenance worker on the Unit 2 yard, worked for 6 years doing that. So that's basically my whole time at Hunt, those 2 jobs.
How far did you attend school?
Excuse me?
How far did you attend school? Your
Oh.
education?
Oh, all the way through high school and 1 year at LSU.
Okay. How do you feel about yourself now?
I think I'm doing great. I've improved. Obviously, I haven't just sat around here at Hunt. I've taken, like I say, taken classes. I've worked hard. I've always worked and had jobs my whole life. You know, I'd rather work than not. I mean, sit around is just, there's nothing to do. You know, I like to be busy, and I consider the job I have here is like the best thing at Hunt because I mean, building cabinets for Habitat, which is being used for families all over the Baton Rouge area, is just, you know, it's a good feeling. You know, we don't really get paid, but it's the payment is just doing the job for people. So, and about myself, as far as you know, I've been attending the sex offense classes here since last October. I re-entered it, and because I was up for parole on that date, but it got postponed to now. So I went ahead and returned to the sex offense class to, you know, just to get back involved in it, and you know, because it had been a while since I'd taken it. So basically, that's it.
Have you thought about what you do if you were released? What are your plans?
Well, my plans are, I have one job offer if my son-in-law has his own contracting business, painting houses mostly, and I can go work with him. And also, I don't know, y'all have my booklet that I sent in. This, I hope you do. I mailed it in. It's it has a lot of stuff in it for me. But I have, Jack Connors, he's, I guess you'd call him the manager over all the Habitat houses for the company. And, he's been down to see us at our shop. And, he wrote a letter of recommendation for me, basically for our whole shop, because, he was very impressed with what we do. And I plan on going by the Habitat people when I get out and see what's going on with them, if I can help them there on, I know they go to have to go to neighborhoods and put in all the cabinets, but they do have some, restores in Baton Rouge where they sell, material that's, given to them so they can make money to help with the payment of all these houses, the cost of them. So, and that's basically when I do that. Now, I am about to be 70 this Friday, and I would like to draw my, Social Security before it gets too old there, So that, and I have some, retirement money coming from a couple of jobs I worked over the years. In the Syngenta Corporation right here in St. Gabriel, and through the local 198 pipe fitters, local in Baton Rouge. I worked for them for like 17 years. So that's basically what I'm up to.
I see.
Hanging out with my kids and my grandkids, reuniting with them would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Mr. Robertson, you mentioned, are you a veteran?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I heard you were in the vet's dorm, aren't you? Did you say that?
Yes, it's called a VETS program dorm, but what it is basically, there's 140 people in a dorm basically, and probably half of them are vets. Some vets don't choose to live there, and a lot of them do, and it's just, so not. I'd say it's the strictest run dorm, and we keep it clean. We have meetings each week, and all that. We always doing something going on there.
So you mentioned you were involved in the victim impact program or class.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And so the victim in your crime was, I guess maybe your stepdaughter of sorts.
Stepdaughter. Yes.
What did you learn in the victim impact class? I haven't heard you say anything about what you did and how you make amends for that.
Oh, okay. I was just waiting for you to ask. So, well, I've always thought about it. I know it's wrong. It's wrong. It's a terrible thing that happened, and by going to the class, it refreshes my memory on all the things that you do to stay away from a situation so that you can get into. And what happened with me was I was living with my wife and her two children, and we went out one night to a ballroom, and we were drinking. And I normally drink beer. I don't consider, I'm a drinker, but I at the time was beer. But I drank some hard liquor that night, and when we got back to the house, my wife went on to bed, and I stayed up a while watching TV. And then I decided to go to bed, and when I went by, I saw the light was on in my stepdaughter's room. I stopped in and say goodnight. And I sat down on the bed and I gave her a kiss goodnight. And that led to fondling her. And then,
Yeah.
I
So
remember-
how old was she at that time?
ma'am,
How old was she at that time?
she was 8 years old. That was in 1995. And
I want to hear what you have to say. You finished?
well, I removed her panties and I performed oral sex on her. And then after that happened, something popped in my head, and I said, "This is terrible. This is terribly wrong." And I got her to put her panties back on, and I left the room. And that was it for that.
A one-time occurrence? Is what you're saying?
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
The record says different.
Okay.
It went on for a period of years.
Well, that's not, I was charged with 1 count of aggravated rape, and that's what happened.
All right, Mr. Prater.
Your wife, or former wife or whomever the girl's mother was says, or maybe it's her, said that your former wife walked in on you twice. And you were doing, that's not true?
Yes, sir.
And the victim says that it occurred for about 6 years, I believe, what they said. Before you go to work in the mornings, you'd come in there and sometimes do things, including intercourse. None of that.
No, that didn't have the intercourse. There was never any intercourse involved, ever.
So you're saying it was just a one-time occurrence?
Yes, yes, sir. And I have, I don't know if you read it, I have a letter from my stepdaughter saying that she thinks I've served enough time and I should be released. I don't know how much effect that has on y'all, but I think it's a pretty good statement there that we have a relationship, that she understands that I've been in jail long enough and so.
All right, I guess we'll hear from the warden. Warden, is there anything you can tell us about Mr. Robertson?
Not a whole lot that wasn't mentioned, actually, he's been with us for quite a long time. He's a model offender, he's no problems here. I think his last write-up was in, 2014. My heart goes out to the victim. Very unfortunate thing that happened. I wish that, Mr. Robertson would, instead of saying a terrible thing that happened, say a terrible thing that I did.
I did.
And try to take a little more ownership of it at this point. But I think that he's remorseful. I think that he's worked hard in here. With that being said.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, and I see he's only has 2 write-ups, is that right?
Yes, his last one was in 2014. I think he had a torn pillow. They wrote him for property destruction, and 2008 was unauthorized area. I think he went into the key without permission or something like that.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, well, we'll hear from your family members. We'd like to hear from whoever wants to go first. If you'd step up to the podium, please.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm Jessica. I'm the daughter and oldest child of Williams Robertson. Most people know him as Gene. We know him as Dad. I still live in the same neighborhood that we grew up in, well, where I grew up. I have many memories of barbecues, traveling, sports, playing basketball with my dad, spending time with family. For the last 20 years, my brother and I have come to visit my dad every other weekend. We feel after 20 years, it's time for him to come home and make more memories. Since he's been at Elaine Hunt, he has worked, attended classes, and has been in the same inmate. He has missed major milestones in our lives in the last 20 years. My children growing up, a 21-year-old and a 16-year-old. Me getting married, my brother getting married, and his little girls being born. I know my dad's remorseful for what has happened and how it's affected everyone. And I know with everything in me that he will abide by the rules of his role and be a productive citizen. He has always been a wonderful dad to me, and I look forward to spending time with him again outside of the prison walls. Please consider him for parole. I'll show him. And I have my stepsister's letter.
Yeah, would you hand it to the officer and we'll be sure it's included in the record. Thank you. Mr. Robertson, is there a brief statement you'd like to make to us before we vote? Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Fleming was in there. Is there anything that the doctor wants to add? No?
No, ma'am, not on this one.
Okay, thank you. Anything you want to say, Mr. Robertson?
Yes, yes, ma'am. I've got a little something I wrote. So, I understand the severity of my crime. I won't be able to change the past, but I will be returning to society a changed and better person. My stepdaughter was an innocent victim. Her act of kindness in forgiving me and asking you to grant me parole shows the special person she is. My family has stood by me throughout my incarceration. They are ready to be together again. If you can see in your hearts to grant me parole today, I will be forever in your debt. Thank you.
And here to vote. Yeah, we have a, motion for executive session. Will you get the roll call, please?
Joe Robinson.
Yes,
Chuck Pierce.
Yes,
Steve Ray.
Here. Yes.
we have a unanimous vote to go into executive session to discuss confidential matters. Mr. Robertson, just stand by. We'll be back momentarily. All right, we're back in session and, Mr. Robertson, and we are prepared to vote. Mr. Tillis voting first.
Mr. Robinson, I think you've done some good things. You've, took a lot of classes. I think you need to have a little bit more time. I'm going to deny.
Mr. Prater?
I concur with that.
Mr. Robertson, I appreciate what the warden has said. You're a model inmate. I appreciate the work that you've done. I think you need some more work on victim impact. I don't believe you've accepted responsibility for what you've done. This was not a one-time occurrence. The record clearly indicates this was something different. So my vote today also is to deny. I would encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, reapply when you're eligible to do so. But today, sir, your parole's been denied.
Now, how do I impact this? You listen to him talk about what he did. He starts off by saying, I went out with my wife. You know, I'm not really a drinker. I normally have beers, but this night I had whiskey. So now it's that right. It's the whiskey's fault. And then he goes on to say, and I'm watching TV. She goes to sleep. I was walking back to my room, but then I saw a light on in my stepdaughter's room. I just had to go in there. And then one thing led to the next. I was touching her, and it's like, are you kidding me? Let's forget the fact that he, of course, was lying from every step of the way, that he's in denial about how many years he was committing this assault and to what degree. This hits home for anyone who, I have an 8-year-old, I have a 6-year-old, I have a 3-year-old. There's nothing that a normal human, we can drink the entire bar. We are never going to look at a child. This monster, see, here's the thing that I think many of us watching this understand, but I'm not quite sure that the experts understand this, but this guy he likes to do this. This is not his first time. As a matter of fact, I am convinced that he went and married this woman because she had a child. They do this. They are predators. They obsess over it. It is their life. It's all they can do. I'm happy that they were denied. I'm disappointed. The preacher's interview nothing there, you know? So far in the interviews that we've seen by him, it kind of reminds me of Miss Y. It's just very nonchalant, just asks like the basic questions. Thank goodness we had Miss Renatza and the sheriff to really ask the tough ones. I don't know why they even had to go into an executive session. Like, what were they possibly talking about? And then I am so happy. I love that this warden said what he said. I would really wish that he would stop saying the terrible things that happened, not the terrible things. He should say the terrible things that I did. Man, I love that the warden said that. And you know what I picked up, and maybe you did too, when his daughter spoke, and I wasn't even sure if I wanted to leave that part in, just because I view her as a victim too. But when his daughter spoke, she said the same thing. She said, "My dad is remorseful for what happened." It's not what happened. It's what you did. Not to mention, he's not remorseful. We all know that. Now, as kids, what are you going to say? Except the terrifying aspect that he says that he wants to go and spend time with his grandchildren. And it's like, how scary that is. And how scary it is that his kids, they're in denial about their father, about his chemical miswiring or whatever it is that you want to call it. But the fact that he is a danger and should never be around children, their children, his grandchildren, ever. Just for that reason, you need to keep him locked up, just to protect his grandchildren from him, the monster. Then you hear about that his ex-wife actually walked in on him twice. And if that's, it seemed the sheriff was a little confused about that statement and maybe it didn't happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. We've heard those things many times. Can you imagine that? If it's true, she needs to be locked up with him. And then you hear that he claims to have a letter from her, that she forgave him. And first, one thing is that we've learned this. We've seen enough of these to know is that one is you cannot trust what a cockroach says. So without hearing any facts that there actually is a letter, we can't believe it. But even if there was a letter, it is so safe to assume from what we've heard in this hearing that she was victimized into writing it. No one gets over something like this. And it's illegal for him to have any contact with her. Oh, he'll say, well, someone else handed the letter. Okay. Where's the DA? The DAs will not show up. And this is the thing. We had seen now a bunch. This is what, our fourth hearing with the new board. And we continue to see DAs. And we thought, wow, it's like it's a trend. Maybe with the new governor, they actually have DA show up. But in this case, no DA. And maybe certain things just can't change because it's only a child. It's just a child. I'm glad the board denied. His good time date is 2036. The idea that he even got such a long sentence is really pretty amazing for Louisiana. Now, I don't have any court documents to show Richard found one appeal. I'm not sure even if it was appealed just on the sentence. I don't think he went to trial. I think he was just surprised he got such a long sentence, which I don't blame him. I'm sure everyone was surprised. especially what the ultimate charge was, which was just attempted, which is such an insult. One charge, but they got it. The judge got him hard, and I believe that there was clear evidence probably in the report that showed that it went on for all of those years, year after year after year. Every morning before she would go to school. Well, at least they denied. And with that, I'll let you go.